What would you do if the moment you thought was going to be the pinnacle of your love story, the perfect scene you'd been rehearsing in your head for months, turned into a nightmare straight out of a twisted sitcom? I mean, really think about it. Picture yourself on one knee, your heart pounding, the ring box trembling in your sweaty hand, her eyes wide as she gasps in shock, the world slowing down around you. And then, before she can answer, another voice cuts through the air, a voice you don't recognize, but one that speaks with the same trembling conviction. Will you marry me? That happened to me. That exact ridiculous, soul-crushing, humiliating scene. And let me tell you, no matter how much you think you've prepared for life's curveballs, nothing prepares you for the day your proposal is hijacked by another man proposing to the same woman. It all started weeks earlier, when I made the decision that it was time. I'd been dating her for almost 3 years. We met at a coffee shop. She spilled her latte on my laptop, and instead of being furious, I laughed. That was our thing. From the beginning. She brought chaos, I brought calm. She'd tease me for being too methodical, too careful, and I'd tease her for being impulsive, never finishing a sentence before jumping to the next idea. I loved that about her. She made life messy and alive. Or at least, that's what I thought back then. So I went ring shopping. Do you know how terrifying that is? Walking into a jewelry store with your palms sweating, trying to pretend you know the difference between princess cut and cushion cut, when in reality, you just hope you don't faint from the price tags. I must have visited 10 different places before finding the ring. The one, simple, elegant, not too flashy. Because she always said she hated gaudy jewelry. I paid more than I should have, swiped my card with a pit in my stomach, and walked out with a little velvet box that felt heavier than anything I'd ever carried in my life. I planned everything down to the smallest detail. Her favorite restaurant, the rooftop with the fairy lights, the table with the view of the city. I even coordinated with the staff to bring champagne after she said yes. I was nervous, sure, but also excited. It was supposed to be our moment. The night came. She wore this red dress I'd never seen before, and when she walked in, I swear my breath caught in my throat. She smiled at me, that mischievous smile she always had, and I thought, this is it. This is the woman I'm going to spend forever with. Dinner went smoothly. I was so distracted rehearsing my speech in my head that I barely tasted the food. And then when dessert came, I stood up, pulled the box from my pocket, and dropped to one knee. The whole place gasped. She covered her mouth with her hand, tears already forming. It was perfect, until it wasn't, because just as I said, "Will you?" another voice, sharp and desperate, rang out behind me. "Marry me." I froze. The restaurant froze. She froze. I turned, still kneeling, and there he was, a man about my age, holding his own little velvet box, ring glinting under the lights. He looked as nervous as I felt, sweat beading on his forehead, eyes locked on her like she was the only person in the room. And she, oh God, she didn't look shocked because I was proposing. She looked shocked because he was. Because both of us were. The silence that followed was unbearable. Guests craned their necks. A waiter dropped a tray. My chest tightened, so hard I thought I might pass out. And then the worst part. She wasn't angry. She wasn't indignant. She was guilty. Her eyes darted between us, her lips trembling, like a child caught stealing candy. I stood up slowly, my legs trembling. "Who the hell is this?" I asked, my voice shaking with a mix of rage and disbelief. The guy shot back immediately. "I should be asking you that. I'm her boyfriend." Boyfriend. Not ex. Not fling. Boyfriend. The word echoed in my skull like a hammer. The restaurant erupted in whispers. People were recording. I could see phones tilted toward us, capturing the implosion of my life in HD. She tried to speak, stammering. This isn't what it looks like. But it was exactly what it looked like. 2 men proposing at the same time to the same woman. There was no explanation that could make that anything else. I felt the blood drain from my face. "How long?" I demanded. She reached out, but I stepped back. I didn't want her to touch me. "How long have you been with him?" The other guy looked like he was about to explode. "Yeah, how long?" he barked, his voice rising. She started crying. "Please, can we talk about this somewhere else? Not here." But it was too late. The truth was out. She was caught. And in that moment, I realized everything. The late nights at work, the unexplained texts, the times she cancelled on me last minute. It all made sense. She wasn't chaotic and free-spirited. She was juggling us. She was double living. I couldn't breathe. My chest heaved. My hands shook. The ring box felt like a brick in my pocket. The other guy glared at me, but I wasn't even angry at him. We were both victims, standing there like idiots, two clowns in the same circus. I turned back to her. "Do you love him?" She didn't answer. I turned to him. "Do you love her?" His jaw tightened. "Yes, more than anything." And I laughed. I laughed, this broken, bitter laugh that made people around us shift uncomfortably. "Well, congratulations," I said, "because apparently you and I have that in common." And then I walked out, just like that, left the champagne, left the ring, left the stares, and the whispers, and the mess. I didn't even know where I was going. I just knew I couldn't stay there another second. I ended up wandering the city for hours, ring box still in my pocket like a cruel joke. My phone buzzed non-stop, calls from her, texts, even a voicemail from him of all people. I didn't answer any of it. I just walked until my legs ached, and the night bled into morning. The humiliation was unbearable. I kept replaying it in my head. The look on her face, the sound of his voice, the silence of the restaurant. I felt like my entire life had been a lie, like I'd been cast in a play I didn't know I was in, and the whole audience had seen me for what I really was, a fool. But the thing about hitting rock bottom is that you stop being afraid of falling. And in the days that followed, as the dust settled, I realized something. This wasn't just a tragedy. It was an awakening. Because if I hadn't proposed, if he hadn't proposed, we both would have kept living in her twisted little love triangle, thinking we were the only ones. She would have kept splitting her time, feeding us both crumbs, and we would have swallowed them like they were feasts. So maybe it was fate. Maybe we were both meant to find out that night, as brutally and publicly as possible. But that wasn't the end of it, not even close, because what happened after the fallout, the confrontations, the decisions we both made, that's where the real story begins. And if you think the double proposal was shocking, wait until you hear what came next. You ever notice how silence is heavier than shouting? After that night, after the double proposal fiasco that felt like a twisted comedy written just to humiliate me, the silence between us was unbearable. She tried to call me. I ignored her. She texted long paragraphs, all full of apologies and excuses, begging to meet in person, promising to explain everything. Explain everything. As if there was an explanation for having two boyfriends propose to you in the same minute. As if there were words that could untangle that mess. The other guy, yeah, he called me too. Left me a voicemail, his voice rough with anger and confusion. "Man, I don't know who you are, but we need to talk. She's been playing us both." At first I laughed bitterly, like hell I was going to sit down and chat with the guy who unknowingly mirrored my biggest romantic gesture. But then I thought about it. He wasn't the enemy. He was just as blindsided as me. And if I wanted the truth, really wanted it, not just her carefully packaged lies, maybe he was the only one who could give it to me. So I called him back. We agreed to meet at a bar, neutral ground. When he walked in, I recognized him immediately. Not from before, I'd never seen him until that night, but because of the look on his face, that same hollow-eyed, betrayed look I saw in the mirror every morning since the restaurant. He sat down across from me, ordered a whiskey without asking, and for a moment, we just sat there in awkward silence. Two men connected only by the fact that we'd loved the same woman and been played for fools. He broke the silence first. "How long were you with her?" "Almost 3 years," I said. "You?" 2.5. The math hit me like a truck. That meant she'd overlapped us almost the entire time. Not a slip-up. Not a rebound. This was her life. 2 boyfriends. 2 stories. 2 anniversaries. 2 proposals. I felt sick just thinking about it. He shook his head, laughing in disbelief. "You know what's crazy? I thought I knew her. I thought I was the only one. I met her family, man. She introduced me to her parents. They called me their future son-in-law." My jaw tightened. "Funny, she said the same thing about me." We drank in silence after that, and slowly the tension between us turned into something else, camaraderie. Maybe, like soldiers comparing scars after a war neither of us signed up for. He wasn't my rival anymore. He was my mirror. And together we started piecing her lies apart. Turns out, she had a schedule. Weeknights with him. Weekends with me. She told him she hated Italian food. Funny, because she always begged me for pasta night. She told me she wasn't a fan of hiking. Strange, since he had dozens of photos of them on mountain trails. Every contradiction was a knife twist. She hadn't just split her time. She'd split her personality, tailoring herself to fit what we each wanted, playing roles so well we never saw the seams. The more we talked, the more furious we became, but not at each other, at her, at the gall it took to pull this off. For years, at the cruelty of letting us both believe we were the one when we were just placeholders in her little theater production. So we made a decision. Not revenge. Not yet. Just clarity. We wanted answers. Real answers. So we set a trap. We texted her separately, both agreeing to meet her at her apartment on the same night. Same time. She thought she was juggling us, still confident in her ability to keep us apart. She didn't know we were walking in together. I'll never forget her face when we showed up at her door. She opened it, saw me, froze, and then saw him behind me, and her jaw dropped. She stammered, trying to slam the door shut, but we pushed it. "Sit down," I said, my voice colder than I'd ever heard it. "You're going to talk, to both of us, right now." She tried crying, tried begging, tried blaming stress, childhood trauma, commitment issues, every excuse in the book, but none of it mattered anymore. We pressed her. Why? How? Did she love either of us? Or were we just props in her twisted experiment? Finally she snapped. "I loved you both," she screamed, tears streaming down her face. "I couldn't choose, okay? You gave me stability," she said, pointing at me. "And you gave me excitement," she said, pointing at him. "I needed both. I didn't want to lose either of you." The room went silent. The words hung there like poison. I stood up slowly, shaking my head. "You don't love two people by lying to both. That's not love. That's selfishness." He glared at her, fists clenched. "You let us plan proposals. You let us believe we were your future. Do you know how cruel that is?" She collapsed into sobs, but neither of us moved to comfort her. Not anymore. That part of us was gone. We walked out together that night, leaving her behind, and something strange happened. As we stood on the street, the city buzzing around us, I felt lighter, still angry, still bruised, but lighter, because I wasn't alone, because he wasn't either. We'd been her victims, but we weren't going to let her define us. Over the weeks that followed, he and I actually became friends. Weird, right? Two men tied together by betrayal, finding solidarity in each other. We shared stories, laughed bitterly at her contradictions, even joked about starting a support group for men who got double proposed. It was absurd, but it was healing. And as for her, I don't know what happened. We both cut her off, blocked her number, deleted her photos, erased her from our lives. Maybe she found someone else to play. Maybe she's still out there balancing two more poor guys on the edge of heartbreak. But that's not my story anymore. My story is this. Sometimes the worst moment of your life, the moment you think you'll never recover from, becomes the thing that sets you free. I thought that proposal was the end of everything, but it was. It was the beginning of seeing the truth, of finding out who I was, without her lies holding me down. And maybe that's the strangest part. The night I lost her, I gained something else. Perspective, strength, and weirdly enough, a friend in the man who kneeled beside me. So if you're asking me now, months later, if I'd change it, if I'd erase that night, that humiliation, that heartbreak, honestly, no. Because sometimes you have to be broken in public to be rebuilt in private. Sometimes the biggest no of your life saves you from saying I do to the wrong person.